It is the Anfield Wrap on Radio CityTalk. Neil Atkinson, John Gibbons and Andy Heaton. We are all in the United States of America. We're now in San Francisco, aren't we, John? How have you enjoyed San Francisco so far?
It's been nice. We've just been for a bit of a drive, went to a bar. It all feels very bohemian, like you.
Like me. I don't base the entire ethos of the city on me, John. Not even I could be that self-obsessed as to think that will be the case. Andy, we saw Liverpool and Los Angeles so far, our trip to America. I mean, it's been great to be around so many people who were desperate to talk about the Reds and want to see Liverpool play football and are just right bang into the cause.
Yeah, it's mad. Whenever it comes to America, I'd stay away for just enough time to forget how enthusiastic everyone is about it all. No, it's grimy. I'm looking forward to. There's a thing tonight we're going to. I'm looking forward to.
We are indeed. We're going to go and see the legends tonight. We've been told that Luis Garcia, Gary McAllister and Robbie Fowler will all be there, and we'll bang into that sort of thing. So it's going to be great.
I think we're going to do the celebrations in front of them, aren't we?
Well, we might do their celebrations in front of them. Yeah, we're trying to be cool on that front. And the opening question this week on Radio City Talk comes from Elliot Boker, and it says this. It's quite an interesting one, actually. Would you have watched Liverpool under-21s in the JPT if they hadn't withdrawn? Now, I want you to take yourselves out of the idea that we do what we do for a living, if you know what I mean, and that we probably would have had to do it just simply to cover it and to talk about it. That we might have took a stance and said we didn't want to. Andy, would you have watched Liverpool's under-21s in the Jonathan's Paint Trophy if they hadn't withdrawn?
Given a choice?
Give it a choice.
No, I don't think it's right. I don't think the way they've categorised it's right. I don't think the way they've fudged it's right. I don't think the way they've demeaned the trophy to try and satisfy some kind of mad quota is right. No, I wouldn't. I don't agree with it at all, and I'm glad that for whatever reason Liverpool have decided not to participate. I'll be honest. Sorry.
No, John Gibbons.
Work aside, I probably wouldn't have watched it. No. That said, I'm very surprised that the club haven't gone for it. I thought it would have been right up their street, considering what they've said about the under-21 league, considering the frustrations that they've had there, and considering, I'd have thought the managers of this football club have talked about B teams going into football leagues. I'm very, very surprised that Liverpool haven't gone for it. I don't think it's a kind of a decision that they've made based on morals, because it's the Liverpool Football Club, and that'd be very uncharacteristic. But so I only presume that you just don't think it's worthwhile, and so I'm very surprised that they haven't gone on for it. I'd have rather they did, in terms of once the decision's been made, if that makes sense. I'd rather B teams weren't in it, but if they are going to be in it, I think Liverpool should do it.
Really?
Yeah. If the decision's been made, which I don't agree with, if that makes sense.
I know exactly what you mean. What you mean is that if the context exists to do the thing, you'd rather it didn't, but once it's there,
everyone seems to have jibbed it. Well, mostly.
Yeah.
So then how's the decision been made to put them in, and who's made it? I don't understand why if there's no appetite for it from the big clubs, then why has it happened in the first place?
Well, it's weird because it was kind of misreported in a way, in regards to the Premier League invade the JPT, when in fact the actual rules were you've got only Category 1 clubs with Category 1 academy status can apply, which kind of I nearly swore then, skews it a little bit, because there's big clubs in the Premier League, Newcastle being one of them,
who were no longer in the Premier League.
Well, no, but the big club who didn't have Cat 1 status applied for it. I think that there's more than a few clubs, and there's also a few clubs that have who have maintained Cat 1 status but in special measures that could actually lose that status at any one time. It's kind of it's been fudged together. It's been fudged together like a couple of things that the Football League have tried to do over the last few years.
It is. I think the whole thing's really, really strange, Elliot, to be honest with you. I think that I can see John's point, which is that if it's there, it is strange that Liverpool aren't using it. But would you have watched it? It's easy to say no. It's easy to sort of say, well, I wouldn't have bothered. But if someone's telling you that Ben Woodburn's banging in hat-tricks every week playing in B teams, then you're probably watching it. On one way or another, though, it would have been quite nice to have the odd week off. But it's a shame that it's happened the way.
What do you think? Well, would you have done it? Would you have gone?
I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have gone, to be honest. I think, broadly speaking, I wouldn't have gone. But I think it's dead easy to say that I wouldn't have gone, and then suddenly, for instance, lads are saying, who fancies Southend away? You've never done Walsall away. Do you know what I mean? It's all of a sudden you're thinking, well, you get to go down and watch Liverpool in these locations. But if you ask me to take like a moral line, Andy, I'd be saying not for me.
Look, when it comes down to it, I think the eligibility criteria has kind of massively influenced it and backfired quite a bit. I think if it was as straightforward as we'll guarantee you that you get entry, these are the standards, this is going to be the officiating is going to be this, these are the rules, this is the accreditation is going to be this and the other, and these are the benefits, and it all be explained clearly, I think the uptake would have been much greater. But the fact that you're even offering an opt-in and an opt-out kind of ruins the press of it anyway. Okay. Either you should be either in or, you shouldn't be do you fancy participating, or,
it should be like simply you're obliged.
Either you're in or you're out. There's no...
Well, they can't do that because these teams are in the Football League. So they've separated those.
But exactly, so that's why it's a stupid thing. Would you like to participate in a cup? Doesn't that just denigrate the standard, the trophy?
It does, but I just assumed it was the big clubs who were pushing for it, which is what's confused me. I assumed this had happened because the likes of Manchester United, City, Liverpool were going, we need better teams for our under 23s. We want to be involved in lower leagues or something, and they've offered them this, and they offered them this compromise. I just assumed that would happen. So it's really bizarre to me that they've all kind of said no, because I'm thinking, well, who's pushing it? Who's? I mean, maybe it's the sponsors.
Maybe it's the FA. It was the B teams thing was Greg Dyke's idea. Anyway,
it wasn't. Sorry, it's strongly the Football League. This was covered on the Football Supporters Federation conference that I went down to. It's strongly the Football League and not the FA that have pushed this. Maybe the Premier League clubs have gone, right, come back and go away, think about it, come back to us with something, and then they've just simply not liked what they've come back with.
Okay, move forward onto being in Los Angeles, from the Johnston's Paint Trophy to the Rose Bowl. It is slightly sublime to slightly ridiculous, but
it's definitely crown paint in San Francisco. That's what I'm
saying. John Gibbons, there is we were at the game the other night against Chelsea. I mean, first and foremost, it was a really, really strange friendly in that it wasn't played at a ridiculous sort of competitive pace, and yet the physical confrontations were very competitive indeed.
Yeah, there were some big tackles going in, a lot of bookings. I mean, the referee was quite trigger happy with his yellow card, really, for the friendlies. I think a couple of them were a bit harsh, but then a couple of them probably just wear yellows because they were a little bit late, and in one particular case for the red card, very, very reckless. And so that is unusual, and it makes you wonder a little bit about how wise it is to pay other Premier League teams in pre-season, because I think there is an added competitiveness, and maybe that's a positive in one sense, because you want to be ready for that first game, but it just adds kind of a little bit of an edge. And if you end up with an injured player, which we definitely could have, then it's kind of ridiculous. And then that's before you get into the kind of psychological elements and things like that. Are we going up against Chelsea if we play at Stamford Bridge quite early, and then we already thinking, they were tough to break down in America, and we already be thinking that, you know what I mean? So it's an unusual thing, and I think the football club would probably rather play teams from other countries, but this tournament's happened and we've entered it and we've took the cash, so we've got to play by their rules.
I think with it being a Conte being in charge, and it being one of his first games, and the Jurgen's there, and I agree with that, absolutely what you said. I think that added a little bit of spice where he wants to put his marker down. I think that transmits to the players, even to the point where they over exuberate on those instructions, because you could actively see the managers towards the end of the game going, hang on a minute.
Well, there's Conte and Klopp have that strange little confrontation where it feels like Klopp's quite angry, but Conte's almost going, broadly speaking, mate, I agree with you. Yeah. If you know what I mean. And that, there's but I do wonder, and that's a good shout, that Andy, we're talking here about two managers who were very, very much into the idea of the sides being intense, that their side's running harder than anyone else, that their side's being first to the ball. That's what they're very much about.
You know what, they wind the players up to play, and so then you've got to kind of take some responsibility when...
Well, there'll be the Chelsea players who are in a situation where they're trying to impress a new manager as well, and this guy's literally just come in. I mean, he's, was he been in the job 2 weeks or something like that? And so if you're, for example, Victor Moses, who I didn't even realise was still at Chelsea, but if you are Victor Moses and your Chelsea career's never really happened, and he's got plenty of faith in his ability, rightly or wrongly, Victor Moses, you're going, and I thought he played well, by the way, but you're going out there thinking, well, I want to impress this guy, and there was quite a few players on the Chelsea side, who are maybe playing for the futures, who are maybe seeing this as an opportunity when the squad's a little bit depleted, with internationals coming back and things like that, to go, well, this is my chance to lay a marker down. And so when you've got that intensity in your head, then it can boil over, because you want to impress this manager, and you know what he's about. He's about commitment. He's about being solid. He's about being aggressive and determined, and all those things we saw from the Italy side. And so I think there's a little bit of that coming in.
No, I'm fine with that. Especially, the Moses shot was particularly, pen, but the worst tackle of the night was from Fabregas, who you'd think was quite secure in his position, and it's not the first time he's lashed one like that in his career. And in a friendly, I thought it was a little bit, way over the top.
It was bang out of order. There's no getting away from that.
It was a leg break. Neil, it was a leg breaker.
It was a leg breaker.
And I thought Clavan played well, by the way.
Clavan did play well, but Ajaria played well as well, Andy. He was
my man of the match. Did you see my ratings?
I saw your ratings, indeed. He's got a lovely touch. The way in which he turns away with the ball. I'm both both Grujic and Ajaria are in the situation, I think, where the two of them are probably pushing themselves, if not higher up the pecking order, closer to the idea of getting regular first team action, if you see what I mean. I don't think they're necessarily either getting ahead of anybody or doing anything like that, but they are both basically saying to the manager, listen, you're going to have League Cup games early. If anyone gets an injury, anyone gets a knock, have me in your thoughts.
Listen, I'll be honest, I'm fed up with, I'm not fed up, but how many times you hear of a young player coming through and everyone's kind of heard of him, and he gets 5 or 10 games, everyone just assumes that'll turn into 20 games, into 30 games. I'm banging into young players coming in and going, you know what, lads, here I am, deal with it. So brilliant, not bothered, great. I hope they both play 25 games to 30 games this season.
Because if they have, then they've shown.
That's it. That's cracking through. That is genuinely breaking the glass ceiling there. And we haven't had a player like that for a while. And we've had some promising young players, but they've never seemed to. Even going back to John Wells, Jordan Roster, Stephen Darby, Stephen Warnock, etc., etc. We've all gone on to have good careers, by the way.
Yeah.
We haven't really had a breakthrough in a while that's, gone straight in. And that says to me a lot. I think if a young player comes in and plays less than 10, I don't think it looks good for them. We need players to come in and play. Well, Sterling.
Well, Sterling's the standout example, and that's
of recent times.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that struck me about all of these lads, John, is that when Sterling first came through, and even when he had bad games, he still looked composed, and he looked like he was, like he understood how the football match was meant to work, and that's been the case here with Ajaria.
Yeah, definitely, but Sterling, look, he's a once in a generation. If it feels sometimes for Liverpool, if we can't produce a Fowler or Owen or a Sterling, then we sort of want to pack in, and it shouldn't necessarily just be about that. You can produce squad players from your academy who play 100 games for you, and it seems either someone plays 5 to 10 and then we sell them because they're not good enough, or they become our best player, and there has to be kind of something in between that. There has to be something who becomes our Joe Allen, or becomes someone who's a solid performer for you, a Clavan or whatever what we hope him to be. So it doesn't have to be the Raheem Sterlings, and maybe Ajaria could be that. Maybe someone who just plays a couple of 100 games for Liverpool and in and out and very good.
Alan Darren Fletcher or someone like that. This is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk, coming to you from San Francisco. After the break, we're actually back in Liverpool talking to Craig Pennington about Liverpool Psych Fest. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, Radio City Talk, the Anfield Wrap. Back in San Francisco, keep leaping backwards and forwards across the Atlantic Ocean. Now you know what it's like to be John Gibbons. We are Neil Atkinson, John Gibbons and Andy Heaton with you until 7:30. And earlier this week we were lucky enough to speak to Steven Gerrard. He was good, both as a footballer but also brilliant to interview. Talked tons and tons of sense, especially about Jordan Henderson, Andy. I think it was striking to me that he went out of his way. We weren't prompted him, we didn't do anything. He went out of his way to stick up for Jordan Henderson, to speak positively about Jordan Henderson, and he very much wanted to put that message over, that he knows what Jordan's going through and he knows how tough it is.
Before we get into that, and I'm banging into the Henderson thing, how relaxed was he?
I was
made up to see it. It was a bit of a bizarre situation, how it all came about, because it was very much, we weren't particularly pushing it. We kind of saw him and just said hello and all that kind of thing, but for some reason the shoulders kind of loosened and all that. He was dead. I was just made up to see him so relaxed and so happy, to be honest, before we get into that.
Yeah, he was just signing
great,
autographs with kids. He was just having a chat with a few people. He was sort of waiting for a lift.
He didn't have the weight on his shoulders of being.
No, he looked very chilled and was genuinely pleased to meet us, I think, and kind of knew what we were doing, and then I apologised. We had a bit to sort anything out because we'd sort of approached a mutual friend, and then we said, we'll have a quick chat now if you want, and so we did it, and he was good, and as Neil says, was very engaging. And the Henderson thing was, if people haven't listened to the interview, you can on through our website, the Anfield Wrap, and he was it almost felt like it was set up. Because
he wanted to get it off his chest.
His answer was so kind of well made, really, and it certainly wasn't set up because it was literally outside and all happened very quickly. But it was something that he obviously feels passionate about, and as he pointed out, that he's kind of been through that, and I think that's why he wants to stick up for Jordan, because what he said was, well, I've had the times when you're injured all year and you can't contribute as much as you want to, and I've had the times where people are writing it off and say, well, is he worth the wages anymore? Should we sell him and cash in and kind of get someone else? And he's been through that, and he's had to come out the other side stronger, and so I think that's why he's feeling for Henderson, and he obviously thinks he's a really good player as well.
Well, but that's what I was going to say. I mean, Steven Gerrard's obviously no mug. I mean, we've read his books, and we've also heard his mate Jamie Carragher's opinion on how he deals with players who he doesn't think are good enough for Liverpool Football Club. And so for him to put so much into Jordan Henderson, is massive, because he obviously sees something there. He obviously thinks he's good enough, because he's no fool when it comes to judging a player. So to go so hard in it, maybe we need to take a bit of notice about what he's saying.
But as well, ex-players generally, we've all spoke to them, they're not shy about going out about, maybe off camera or off record and say, I'm not sure about the current squad or whatever. We have plenty of players that said that to me in the past, but he's really positive about next year generally.
Oh,
Gerrard,
yeah, massively.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
We had the chat afterwards. We don't give away any big secrets. He
thinks Liverpool are going to do really well.
Yeah.
And he's really positive about it. He's positive about Klopp. He's positive about the players that we've brought in. He thinks we need a couple more, but he's kind of really, really positive about it, and that isn't just former player because he's Liverpool. Because as I said, in the last few years, you spoke to a few others, and they're like, I'm just not sure the squad's got quite there.
Is he as positive as our host is, Kevin?
Kevin's just put a stellar.
There's a point to be made though, John, and I think it's the key sort of. I sort of feel as though how well Liverpool do this season is going to be defined by how well I think predominantly some combination of Emre Can, Jordan Henderson and Wijnaldum do. I think they're the lads who are going to define exactly how successful or not successful Liverpool are, and that's quite a that's why I think it's a big deal that Gerrard feels as though if we can give Henderson the possibility, he can at the very least get back to the level he was at 14-15, but I think he could step on again from there.
Yeah, he certainly could step on, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, because he's very talented. He's had a lot of good games for Liverpool, and he's been part of Liverpool teams that have done well, and so he is kind of there. He's there with the talent and the drive in himself, and he was made captain for a reason, and so he's there as a footballer, and But essentially midfield, I think, is important for us as well, because there's that's where maybe the most question marks are in terms of the balance and in terms of whether we've got the right combination of skills there, and whether we shouldn't have spent a little bit of money. I think most people were thinking spend a little bit of money on that, and it doesn't look like we're going to now for whatever reason. And so whether Wijnaldum can be the man on that, I don't know, or whether you expect a lot for Henderson and Sean, but can they kind of do it throughout the season, just the two of them? Is Milner, is Man's coming and do a bit there? There are question marks there, really, and I think it still is an important part of the football pitch. It's your engine room, it's where you get on top in games, it's where you go away from home and really kind of set the tempo and say what you're about. So it's a big area of the football pitch, and I just hope Jordan's feeling good in his body and feeling good in his mind and feeling determined to kind of make it happen this season, because I really do think he's got the talent.
He'd hit the age where midfielders emerge, like 24, 25. He's 26 now, and like the year that could have been his valedictorian. Sorry, excuse me, an American parlance, by the way. While we're here, that was supposed to be the year that he emerged, and it's been one way or the other knackered by injury, and he's been even when he did play, he's had this heel and his ankle and whatever.
Clearly carrying things.
But also, as clear as that he was carrying things, it was clear to me that his movements, even though it was a friendly, his legs looked freer. He looked to me have a little more zip about his play, a little more faith in his body. There's a player in there, and again, going back to what Stephen says and the players who pick him, there's a potential in there, and if he's unburdened and he's finally fit, maybe he can make the step up. He's 26. There's still time to be a great midfielder.
Well, one of the things that strikes me about Henderson, Andy, is the way in which players who play with him and have played with him speak about him. In fact, go to your first job on this. That they all, Lallana spoken at length about, when he was injured last season. Lallana kept saying, "You wait till you see us when Jordan comes back."
Sturridge loves him.
Sturridge, you know what I mean. I feel as though he's very much. There's a section of Liverpool supporters who seem to strongly dislike him. There's some there's a bigger section who are just unsure either way, and that happens sometimes with a footballer. But there's, you do feel as though the lads who are training with him every day, who are around him as a professional and as an individual, they seem to be very, very fond of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the ones who are really against him. It's mad, there's just kind of like that hate,
internet, mate.
It's a hate level there that is really strange. The ones who are on defence, I kind of understand a bit more, because it's a key position on the football pitch, and we've had really, really good central midfielders, in our history, really, and even on our recent history when we haven't been quite successful, we still had a lot of good players playing in the centre of the park, and so it's big shoes to fill, and whether Jordan has got that, we'll have to wait and see. But I think he's got that in his game to do that, and I think it is, as you say, quite telling that these are the footballers you play with, and people like Steven Gerrard, as I say, you don't have to do that. He could have just said to us, it's a big year for Jordan, and I hope the fans get behind him. But he went much, much further than that, and I think, as Andy says, that kind of shows that the ones who play with him and the ones who, let's face it, understand football better than us, because and in terms of knowing what it takes to be kind of good competitive side, do seem to really, really put the faith in him, and I think you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I always go back to the I think the goal he scored at Man City with Henderson, which was Gerrard-esque, when he kind of knocked it to the side and just bent it into the far corner. And I just think, as much as we've been deprived of that, I think Jordan Henderson's been deprived of that. And confidence in your own body, as we know, and as we know from Daniel Sturridge, by the way, is an absolutely huge factor. So, and as John said as well, I trust Gerrard's opinion over of most people.
Okay, this is Radio CityTalk. This is the Anfield Wrap. We're going to play a tune now. We're back in no time at all to talk further about what's been going on with the Reds. We'll just have to trust Dave Downey that was a good song, John.
It was an absolute belter, probably Blondie.
You'd be disappointed if not. This is the Anfield Wrap on Radio CityTalk. We are over in San Francisco, looking forward to Liverpool's game against Milan, where hopefully, Andy, we may well see Daniel Sturridge, who's been speaking today about pre-season being the most intense pre-season that he can remember. I mean, it does feel as though players always say this, like pre-season's just always getting more intense. But as far as Sturridge is concerned, you feel as though the fact that he's getting a proper pre-season under his belt, let's be clear about this, I think it's his first one in 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm amazed and surprised, because this talk of 3 sessions has been going around for a few months now. No, it's interesting, and I remember I've read the cops come out and talk about Cormier being a genius and one thing and the other. So I mean, we'll see. It's all great to talk about triple sessions and we dead fit, but the proof will be in the pudding. The fact that Daniel Sturridge is actually fit and going through all these sessions, and the sessions they've tailored for him, by the way, can only be good news.
Yeah, I mean, they've not. I don't think any of the players are promising anything wild, are they? They're just being asked about it, and they're saying, I thought it's worth noting that Sturridge didn't just talk about the intensity. He just said, look, it's different to what we normally do, and so they're doing it in a different way. And he said, look, hopefully we'll see the benefits in the new season, and I like that. And I think all the players who've been asked about it, they haven't said, oh yeah, we've been doing this intensity, but just watch us, we're going to be flying, you know what I mean, we're going to have jetpacks on come September, I hope they do. Well, I mean, that'd be great, but maybe it should be a surprise, a jetpack thing. Maybe we should spring it on people, but I think the right to say, look, hopefully we'll see the benefit come the start of the season, kind of because it's new for them, and that's what Sturridge has said, is it's a new style, so they're probably kind of not quite aware how much it is going to help them, but we all hope to see it.
I'd love to see if that's in the rules, the jetpack thing.
There is. It's also worth pointing out, John, that there's other players knocking around who've not been able to, who've had injury issues, injury question marks. Gomez is now coming back for the second time. Ings is also getting the benefit of this now as well, in conjunction with everything else. But we've got Origi as well up there, who's also an injury-prone player. So it is, you feel as though what's come out of it so far is the only real injuries that we've had in pre-season is a recurrence of Gomez and Sacco to a certain extent. But then apart from that, it's only been the contact injury with Grujic, if you see what I mean. There's not been a rash of injuries, which you do sometimes get in the pre-season stages.
Yeah, you can do when the intensity goes up, and it just shows that everything's, well, hopefully carefully monitored. I mean, you can end up looking silly if something happens this weekend, of course, but people just assume just because the intensity's going up, then the strain on the body, and there might be something in that. I'm sure that they're also monitoring things. They've been very careful in terms of adding to their backroom staff at the moment. They've got after people they really want, and so these people strongly know what they're doing. They've been around success, most notably at Bayern Munich, and so that's what they've gone out for. That they've gone out to get the guys who've been around winning teams and know what it takes, fitness wise, to kind of get there. And there's no guarantees that, of course, we could have the success of Bayern Munich just because we get fitness coaches, but it's the right level of appointment to give you every success. In my head,
it's Rocky IV. it's like Bridget Nielsen stood there somewhere shouting and someone's running on a treadmill, and there's bleepers going off everywhere.
Other thing that's been interesting that's come out over the last 12 hours, Andy, is Klopp's been quite frank with James Pearce, that he basically says, I'll read the quote, I think it's a really interesting quote: "The day that this is football, this is about these enormous fees that are being paid." He says, "The day that this is football, I'm not in a job anymore because the game is about playing together. That is why somebody invented passes, so these players can play together. It's not about running with the ball because you can do it all the time. Building the group is not my unique idea. It's necessary to be successful in football. Other clubs can go out and spend money and collect top players. Yes. Do I have to do it differently to that? Actually, I want to do it differently," is what he said. And I think there's, I do wonder whether or not there's a line here which is that I think you've got to take those comments at face value. What do you think?
No, I think he's great at PR. I think if they turn around and went, "Listen, we can sign Lionel Messi tomorrow for £150 million and pay him £300,000 a week," I don't think he's saying no. Basically,
I think it's a bit of both. I think he's genuine in that he's got ideas about how he wants to play. He's got ideas on the type of player he wants, both in terms of mentality and physique. And I think he's shown that throughout his career. And I don't think he's terribly concerned. He's probably less concerned than most managers by how much have we got to spend and kind of do it, and if I haven't got it, then hands. I mean, it's funny when managers talk about money in this sense. Steve Haldesall noticed tweeted before that he was quite happy to demand $7 million a year himself. So the idea that he doesn't believe in rewards in football aren't there, I suppose. But he's one of the best paid managers in the Premier League, and so I don't think he expects Liverpool players not to be some of the best paid players around. But I think what he's getting at as much as anything is, just because the team we've got, all the biggest stars, don't necessarily win. And, if that's your approach to football, is collecting £100 million footballers and then just throwing them and hoping for the best, there is a way to beat that. And I think there is, because he's shown it, he's done it. It'd be tougher at Liverpool because there's more to beat. But I think he's shown that he's done it. And I don't think he is a manager who's wholly concerned with, well, if I've got 100 million I can do it, if I've got 50 million I'm only half as likely to do it. I don't think he's kind of got that mentality. I think he believes that there's players out there who are hungry, who can do work for him, and he can gel together and make a team out of. I think he does genuinely believe that.
No, I'm fine with that, but if he had the freedom to do whatever he wanted, he's not going to pick the £5 million prospect over the £50 million finished article. I just don't believe that.
That's not what he says. I mean, he genuinely, he said here the idea that that the best player of last season is good to know, but it's more interesting to find out who'll be the best next year. And that's, all I'm saying, Andy, is that these are the words that are coming out of his mouth. He said, I don't know how much money we could spend because nobody has told me up to this point, no, you can't do this.
Yeah, but listen, managers say loads of things. He said earlier in the season that in April, actually, that if a player didn't want to sign because of the Champions League, he put the phone down. And last week he was saying, well, now it's having an effect. And also then we've had the switch on the loan thing where he's saying, "Oh no."
That's just changing your mind on something. That's not.
Look, every manager says things that aren't necessarily true. I'm fine with him having belief in his ability to take a player and train him. That's great, but I don't think any manager in the world would, if given the freedom, make his life more difficult when he knows he could get from A to B quicker than going from like A, B, and C, D, and E.
I think it would be interesting to know whether there is a budget there. You know, he's saying that there isn't. There doesn't appear to be. I'm not sure there ever has been in terms of FSG a kind of set budget. I think they go case by case. I don't think we've never had a summer where you seems to be okay. Well, you know, they've got a clear idea of what we want to spend. I think they do sort of go a bit case by case. But then you think there must be some idea in the head of kind of how much money they've got really, and it'd be interesting to know, and I don't suppose we'll ever really find out whether you know, who knows that at the football club and how kind of set in stone that is really, because through FSG, you know, that there never seems, you know, there doesn't seem to be this idea of, oh, well, you know, you've got 20 to 30 million pounds to spend in a window. It very much seems to be case by case, and they don't seem to be sometimes too concerned to go over, or other times to, you know, they were prepared to spend 30 odd million in January. You know, on a player that they wanted, and in the end they went to China. But then, you know, this summer you won't be surprised if we end up with a net spend of around zero. But then I'm sure at the start of the season, the start of the summer, they weren't saying, look, we haven't got any money to spend. So it's confusing. Well, not confusing, not the right word, but it's a one that you kind of you never really know the truth to, or never really know the truth to. But the main thing is whether Jurgen Klopp is comfortable working in the parameters and the scenario that he is, and it certainly seems like he is.
Okay, we were all saddened over here in the United States to hear the passing of Jerry McIver, who worked in the HJC shop and campaigned so much for justice over the last few years. Lots of people tweeting about it in amongst Liverpool Twitter. Do see all the things that they say about him. These are people who know him better than I certainly do, and all the warm words are worth looking out for. Huge thank you to Andy, huge thank you to John, huge thank you to Craig for coming in and talking about Liverpool Psychfest, and Dave Downey for pulling all this together. So we were very certain on City Talk about how, you know, we seem to be getting a little bit of luck with injuries one way or another, John. This is a little postscript to the City Talk show, because that broke and we wanted to grab some audio additionally on top of it. And Karius is now out for 8 to 10 weeks, and it just feels like a kick in the teeth for all parties.
Yeah, I mean, to stick up for us for a second, we were talking about muscle injuries and in training, where we not punching people in the face injuries. Those are rare, and they happen every now and again, and unfortunately they've happened to us. Yeah, you feel sorry for him, because he's made a decent start to his Liverpool career in as much as he can in friendlies. You know, he was looking confident. He made one mistake in friendly, but managed to kind of laugh that off, and you know, hasn't conceded many goals and was looking pretty good, and was probably thinking I'm in a good position to start first league game of the season. There's no guarantees he would, of course. We haven't had Bingley back yet, so we didn't really have much indication on who was first choice there, because they hadn't gone up against each other. But you know, he could have been rightly confident about starting the first game, and then now he's out, and that must be really, really frustrating for him, and it's obviously frustrating for the club as well, because whoever he went with the first game, you'd have liked to have had the choice, and I'm sure Jurgen Klopp, who I can see now. But by the way, while I'm talking, so that's throwing me a bit.
I was going to say, we need some German fella in the background. Sounds about that. I'm sure, like, to have had the opportunity to make that decision, and now it's kind of been frustrating. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, we touched on the show last night, which was great, by the way.
Thanks to everyone who came down.
The nice one. It kind of, in a way, makes the manager's life a little bit easier, in so much as that he hasn't got a choice to make now. It's going to be Mignolet, and then, you know, you've got an idea then of, if he plays the first month or two, how he's getting on, and there isn't the question of, well, Mignolet may have started and might have done well, he either will or he won't. And then if he's not up to standard, the new boy can come in fit from injury, and he can make a change.
Compete for the place. Okay then, so I hope you've enjoyed this little postscript, this little additional. We actually also, in this podcast, we've not included the interview with Craig Pennington, mainly because we've left the audio in Liverpool with our usual amount of, so sorry about
usual
that.
Standards of professionalism.
Yeah, we will be getting that audio put out, and we'll just put it out as a solo podcast. Me and John might top and tail it with a bit of a chat about Psychfest as well, but it went out on the radio too. So anyway, this has been a little bit of additional Anfield Wrap. We're still out in America, we're still talking aloud. We'll see you in a bit. Thank you very much indeed for listening.